Hello all, welcome to the new video in a series on data cleaning with Python. In this video, we're going to import an Excel workbook into a Pandas data frame. We'll do some data exploration and finally data cleaning. In the previous video, we've seen how we could launch a Jupyter notebook from an conda navigator. In this video, we'll see how we could launch it from the terminal. This is my Mac terminal and I'm using CD to navigate to the specific folder where I want the Jupyter Lab notebook. Now once I'm in this specific directory, I want to look at the existing conda environments. In programming, an environment is an isolated workspace. When we work on different projects, different projects require different versions of Python or a different package, and there are some dependencies on each software. So if we isolate it and keep it in an environment, we could switch projects without any dependency issues within them. So to check the environments in conda, the command is conda env list. These are all the different environments I have on my system. We can pick any environment and activate it. To activate an environment, the command is conda activate and the name of the environment. So I want to activate the base environment. So the command is conda activate base. You could see a little base.py to the right of the terminal. That means the environment is activated. Now once the environment is activated, we could launch the Jupyter Lab by just typing Jupyter space lab. We could see a browser window getting created, and here's where we could create our Jupyter notebook. So I create a new notebook. I rename it as Excel data cleaning. Next, the Excel workbook or the raw data is in the raw data folder here, GDP per capita.xlsx. So this is the Excel workbook which I'm going to import into the Pandas data frame. It has two worksheets, and the second worksheet, OECD.Stat export, is where my actual data is. So this data is about GDP per capita from 2001 till 2018. It has got many countries. The first column has all the different countries and the regions in the country. Also, if you see here, the first row is hidden and the row 2, 3, 4 are not needed when I import it. Also, if you look at the footer or the last row, this also is not needed for me. So let's see how we could import only the necessary rows from this sheet into the Pandas data frame. So first I import the necessary libraries, import pandas as PD. Next I will read the Excel file into the Pandas data frame. So the name of the data frame I'm giving is df. To import the data frame, the command is pd.read_excel, and next in quotations we should give the path. So I'm going to this folder, copy the path and pasting it. Next I'm going to specify more parameters while reading the Excel workbook. To know the full list of parameters we could optionally give while importing an Excel workbook into Pandas data frame, you could see the API documentation. As you could see here, we could give the sheet name, the header, names, index column, use calls. All these parameters could be given while importing the Excel workbook. So I want to, firstly, out of the two sheets, I want to import only this sheet. So I specify the sheet name as a parameter here. Sheet name, the name of the sheet. Next, I would like to skip the first 4 rows. The first row is hidden and the first 4 rows are not needed for me. So I would use the skip rows parameter. skip rows equal to 4. I would also like to skip the footer, skip footer equal to 1. Next I want to specify the columns. I want the first column. The second column I don't want because it's an empty column, and I want all the columns from C till T. That means use columns equal to comma C colon T, close inverted commas, close the parenthesis, shift enter to execute it. Now we could check the first 5 rows to see whether the data is imported as we needed. Let's do some data exploration. df.info to get an overview of the data. There are 702 rows, 19 columns. These are the list of columns and the data type of the columns. Let's do some data cleaning now. First I want to rename this year column. df.rename columns equal to open curly brackets the name of the column, colon the name what you want to give. I want it renamed as metro, close the curly bracket, in place equal to true to get the modification done in the same data frame. And after doing this, let's look at the head of the data frame. We could see the year column is renamed as metro. Now let's check the unique data types in the metro column. So print df.metro.map of type. What map function does is it applies the type function to each value of the metro column. Unique, and close the bracket. You could see the metro column contains only the class string. So all the values in this column are strings. Now let's check for any leading spaces in the metro column. df.metro.string starts with any. Okay, there are some columns which have leading spaces. Let's check for trailing spaces. So we have some strings with trailing spaces as well. So let's strip off or remove the trailing and leading spaces. df.metro.string strip. This removes all the trailing and leading spaces. Let's check for it. So now we don't have any spaces. Let's check the head once again. Okay, so I have these columns as year 2001 to 2018. I want to change the name of the column. I want to rename it. Also, if you look at the data type, these are objects, but actually the data contains numerical values. So I would like to change the data type of these columns as well. So to do that, I'll use a for loop. The for loop goes something like this. For call in df.columns, and now since this is a 0 indexing, metro is column 0 and 2001 is column 1. So I want to start from 1 till the end of the data frame. So df columns 1 colon. If you leave empty after colon, that means it selects till the end of the data frame. Close the square bracket. Now for each call in df.columns, in these columns, I want to pick the column df call, and I want to change the data type to numeric of df call. And errors, if there are any errors, like for example, you could see there are NaNs and some empty spaces here. If you coerce that, it would change that blank spaces into NaNs. NaNs means not a number. So errors equal to coerce, close the bracket. I would also like to rename the columns. So rename columns equal to per GDP as a prefix to each column. So per GDP plus call. and I want it in the same place. I don't want to create a new data frame. Close the parenthesis and come out of the for loop. Now after it is done, I want to check the head of the data frame. Okay, so as you could see, the Australia row used to have some empty dots here, but now because we coerced the errors, it is changed to NaNs, not a number format, and also the name of the columns has changed to per GDP 2001 to 2018. We could also look at the column data types. All the data types are changed to float. Let's check the statistical information of the data by using this command df.describe. We got the count, mean, standard deviation, and minimum. Also the quartile, 25th quartile, 50th quartile, 75th quartile, and so on. Next, let's check for null values. df.isNull.sum. You could see many null values here. Shape of the data frame. Next, drop the rows null values. df.dropNA. I want to drop the columns only starting from the first index from 2001 to 2018. 1 colon, close the square bracket, how equal to all. That means only if all the column values are empty, only then they are removed or dropped. And then finally in place equal to true. Let's check the shape after this dropping is done. You could see the shape is changed. Next, I would like to split this column metro based on the delimiter column into two separate columns, square bracket and another square bracket. I want to create two new columns. So the first column is code and the second column is region. Close the brackets. The values should come from the metro column, df metro. How should I split? Based on the delimiter column and expand equal to true. Expand equal to true creates two new columns. After splitting, let's look at head as well. So now we could see 21 columns. Previously we used to have only 19 columns, and these two new columns are added to the end of the data frame. Now I want to bring or rearrange these columns here near the metro column. So I could use a function called pop. Let's say the code call or code column. I'll take the data frame and I'll pop the code column. So the values of the code column are saved in this variable code call. Similarly, the region call, I would pop it and save it in region call variable. Now I would insert in the data frame at position number 1. So this is position 0, metro. Position 1 comes next to the metro column, and the name of the column is code, and the values of the code column should be code call. The region call and the values should be from the region call variable. After that, so now we could see the metro, code and region side by side. I want to drop the metro column. df.drop metro axis equal to 1. So axis equal to 1 means it is a column. Axis equal to 0 means it's a row. If you want to drop rows, we should use axis equal to 0. If you want to drop columns, we should use axis equal to 1. In place equal to true, and then look at the head. So now the metro column is no more in the data frame. Also, let's say I want to select only till this column, like 2005. So it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's say I want to select only the 7 columns. I'm calling it a data frame new df new equal to df dot. We could use a function called iloc, which lets us to select the columns based on the indexes. Iloc square bracket, give a colon and comma, that means all the rows are selected. And to select the columns, I'm using from 0 to 7, and then close the square bracket. We want to check the head of the new data frame. Now we could see only the first 7 columns are selected. Let's check the shape of the new data frame. Df new shape. So it's 480 rows and 7 columns. So this is how we could do some data cleaning and data exploration by importing an Excel workbook into a Pandas data frame. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching.